There have been 37 regular season games outside of the United States and Canada in NBA history. The best scoring performance by a player in those games was by Rashard Lewis when he erupted for a career-best 50 points on November 1st, 2003, while playing for the Seattle Supersonics against the LA Clippers. This was also the last time a regular season game was played in Japan. There have been 4 preseason games played there since then, the last being on October 2nd, 2022, when the Warriors played the Wizards in the same arena in Saitama. While Lewis is mostly remembered for his time with the Orlando Magic, with whom he helped reach the NBA Finals in 2009, most of his career was spent in Seattle, where in his last 3 years there, he averaged over 20 points per game. His role with the Sonics was different than it was with the Magic overall. In Seattle, playing the small forward position, he had so much variety in his offensive package. He was one of the best in the 2000s at his position to outmaneuver defenders in the post, using his combination of size, quickness, and skill. A lot of times we would see these step-throughs using his nifty footwork to score along the baseline. He always seemed to recognize when a smaller defender was on him, to which then he would proceed to take them into the post, where those defenders were not accustomed to defending players. He also had a really nice jump hook going toward the middle when posting up. This is where you really saw how his height over many of his defenders caused havoc. At 6'10", he could just connect right over the top of defenders. Here's a look at some examples. He was a bit erratic with his shooting inside the arc, however. In 2004-05, for example, he shot 52% from 3 to 10 feet out, but the year prior, he shot just 41.7% from this range. That's just one detail of how he was all over the map with his efficiency levels, from the mid-range inward. Nonetheless, he had a very good turnaround jumper from the post as well, especially against those shorter defenders. Here are some examples, starting with against the 6'7" Michael Finley, the 6'1" Derek Fisher, the 6'7" Paul Pierce, and the 6'3" Andre Miller. A big curiosity is how good Seattle of the mid-2000s would be in today's NBA. They were one of the premier three-point shooting teams those years under head coach Nate McMillan and starring Ray Allen and Lewis. In 2003-04, they ranked number 1 in both three-point attempts and makes and were second in percentage. In 2004-05, they were second in both attempts and makes and 5th in percentage. Lewis took his threes in a variety of ways, one of which was off all the attention Allen got. Besides being an elite shooter himself, Allen with the Sonics was an excellent shot creator and playmaker, which benefited Lewis. Sometimes you would see Allen run off screens, attack inside if there was a crowd, and then dart a pass out to Lewis from the paint for an open kick-out three-pointer. And then the same when they used Allen as the ball handler in pick and roll and pick and pop situations. Here you see Allen make a good read from the post when a second defender comes. Lewis got a lot of his three-point looks from the corners, and he was one of the most efficient from this region during that era. In 2003-04, he took the 7th most corner threes and made 43.5% of them. The next season, 04-05, he took the 9th most and shot an incredible 49.3%. Occasionally, we'd see some pick and pop with him as the screener, and he'd get good three-point looks that way. Also, sometimes he would fly around pin downs, back screens, and other types of off-ball picks and get space that way for three-point shots. And then when the closeout came, he was good at pump faking and driving in. This is where we saw some of his creativity and athleticism stand out. On July 7, 2007, as part of a sign-and-trade deal, Lewis joined the Orlando Magic. Stan Van Gundy, then the Magic's head coach, was able to convince Lewis to play the 4, which really made the Magic tough to guard. If the opponent opted to send a double team to Dwight Howard in the post, there were shooters all around him to make the opponent pay. And most power forwards during that era were not accustomed to defending on the perimeter. Here are a bunch of clips that illustrate how well Orlando functioned when Howard had the ball in the post and there were shooters around him on the perimeter. The other big thing was the playmaking of Hedo Turkoglu. If Turk played in today's era, I really think he'd be a top 25 or 30 player in the league because of his blend of size, vision, and shooting. He ran pick and roll with Howard extraordinarily well, and because of all the attention that got, Lewis was often open as a stationary shooter on the perimeter. In the 2008-09 season, which was the year the Magic ended up making the NBA Finals, Lewis led the NBA in both three-point attempts and makes. In his 3.5 seasons with Orlando, he shot just a shade under 40% from beyond the arc. A few of his playoff threes during that era came in crunch time, like this one against Cleveland in Game 1 of the 2009 Eastern Conference Finals, and then here in Game 4 of that series. Earlier that playoff run, he had a 29-point performance in a closeout Game 6 win in Philadelphia with Howard out because of a suspension. Although Orlando lost in the finals in 5 games to the Lakers, Rashard had a great series. In Game 2, he flirted with a triple-double with 34 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. In Game 3, a Magic win, he had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, and then in Game 5, he finished with 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Lewis wrapped up his career with stops in Washington and Miami. In his first of 2 years with the Heat, he won an NBA championship alongside LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. It was there also where he reunited with Ray Allen. All in all, he was a 2-time NBA All-Star, once with Seattle and once with Orlando, and ended up playing 16 years in the league. So that'll wrap up this video. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe.